just so you know, if you've messed with AI at all, if you go, "Oh, that's cool, that's interesting," if you've, used ChatGPT to prompt and help you with some things, but you don't kinda use it regularly, um, then just know that you wanna be engaged in figuring out all the different ways of using artificial intelligence that you possibly can, because my prediction, and this is not a prediction that's I'm pulling out of thin air, and it's not even my prediction. Basically, where the AI industry is headed right now, and as it's rapidly evolving, by by 2029, if not sooner, AI will be at a place where it'll be able to replace whole human beings, including replace human beings that have conversations with people for business purposes, customer support, sales, etc. And there we reach a point where AI will be able to be a better Ferny than me, where I can, because the thing, human beings get tired, human beings have bad days, human beings get distracted, whatever, and so that impacts quality of work. So, but AI doesn't deal with that, and it'll reach a point where AI will be able to essentially replace me and be a better version of me when it comes to being able to support a group of people, which is really cool, kind of scary, but that's where it's headed. All right. So, right now, we are just going to talk about what's possible right now. But just know that whatever AI currently can't do, things are rapidly accelerating where it eventually will be able to do it. Right now and in the near future, AI won't be able to do anything physical, but maybe in the future it might through robots. But that's another hurdle, a bigger hurdle. Why am I talking about you know AI replacing me or replacing people, etc.? Well, you want to get as familiar with how to use AI as possible so that you have the ability to essentially be AI's manager, be the AI engineer, the prompt engineer. That's going to make you valuable in any role that can possibly exist. If you are familiar with how to use AI and the way to prompt it, etc., then that's going to put you in a great position to thrive as things evolve. And what I'm going to talk about here is kind of just some of the ways we'll be able to do that. All right. Now, I actually, when I was I went, if you guys don't know, I went to school at MIT. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and computer science from MIT. So the computer science part of my degree, is relevant here because I actually did take an AI course at MIT. And this was back in 2000, the year 2000, I think, or 1999, one of those two. I took an AI course. And frankly, it was one of the most boring classes I ever took. It was like mind-numbingly boring. And it actually turned me off from wanting to do anything with AI because it was that boring. Because essentially, it was, you know, it's hard to explain without showing you guys, but basically AI at that point was very rudimentary, very basic. It was like we were trying to create computer models that would simulate or attempt to come somewhat close to how a human being would think, how the brain works, how neurons communicate with each other. And so I studied things like neural networks, which is a type of algorithm that tries to simulate, how the human brain works and towards making decisions and stuff like that. But it was just so boring. Now, I must say now, I never thought after taking that class and seeing like, oh my God, like AI has a long way to go. This is so boring. This is so like basic and rudimentary. And to see how far it's come, I'm shocked. I'm even surprised. And so I would not have predicted where we're sitting now when it comes to how AI is supporting us and we're using what I'm going to cover here. That's just a little anecdote. I thought I knew what AI was, and I was like, never in a million years will I be able to do the things that we're talking about it can do now. So now I'm all in on AI. I love it. And the cool thing about you being able to use AI is, if you've never used it, is You don't need to code, you don't need to program, you just need to give words. You need to speak, you need to write. That's how you interact with AI. So I'm going to cover some of the use cases for AI that we're currently using, but I'm curious, you guys right now, type in the chat, what are you using AI for? And what, even share what apps you're using if you're using a particular app for a certain purpose. I love to get some of that feedback from you guys because I'm going to share, kind of like what we're using it for right now. And I, by no means, I'm not the most, I'm not the one that is neck deep in this stuff. Like my business partners are going a lot deeper and they fill me in on some of the more exciting use cases. So, but I'd love to get feedback from you guys on what you're currently using it for. Now, there's two use cases when it comes to network marketing. One, personal efficiency. How can I do the things I do faster? All right. And so some of you guys are using ChatGPT for work emails, Canva sometimes. To ask questions. That's a great use case. Ask questions. It's faster than Google. Yeah, it kind of aggregates information. I use it for the same thing. When I have a question about something, I was like, is this true? Or like I ask AI and it'll give me. So ChatGPT, Copilot, content. Okay, great. So, all right. So let me tell you first. There's a personal efficiency, personal production, and then team support. I'm gonna cover personal efficiency because that should be pretty familiar. So, one of the primary use cases, especially when building a network marketing business online, is for content creation. So, image creation. Now, ChatGPT. I'm not sure Claude probably can too. Some of the tools that I recommend you guys lean into are ChatGPT, Claude, and it's spelled exactly the way it sounds, Claude, and Grok. Grok and Gemini as well. So those four. Gemini is Google's version of ChatGPT. Grok is Elon Musk X's version of ChatGPT. Claude is its own thing that came shortly after ChatGPT. Claude is arguably one of the apps that does the best writing as of now. If you're using it for personal use, for content creation, then Claude is really good, especially for writers and creating content. But ChatGPT is pretty good, and ChatGPT obviously was the first, to come out and kind of revolutionize. And as right now, ChatGPT, if that's all well, you can prompt it to create images for you. You can you can have it write content for you. But the other thing is, one of the things you can do inside of ChatGPT and Claude and others is you can create something called projects. And when you create a project, what that means is basically you're going to provide it information, a knowledge base that it can reference so that it can dial in what you're wanting to do. For example, when you create a project inside of ChatGPT, you can give it upload documents with information about your company, about your product, anything it needs to sample to understand what you're trying to do. That way, when you prompt ChatGPT and you ask it a question, especially if it's related to your business, it always has the context. It always you don't need to kind of like give it the whole background information each time you ask it a question. Because obviously, if you're going to ask a question for doing something in your business that's relevant to your company, then it needs to have that background information. So creating a project where it can reference documents so you don't have to repeat yourself is one of the pro tips right now that you can do. And so you can create projects, upload a knowledge base, upload documents to it, and then ask it the question you want to ask it, and you don't have to repeat any of that stuff because it already knows because you're inside that project when you're asking a question. So that's one tip, and that's going to help with any type of content creation. But what you can also have ChatGPT do is you can use it for helping you with responding to prospects. Now that it has a background information on what you do, well, now you can basically give it, you can do this with regular ChatGPT. You don't have to do it within a project, but you can say, hey, ChatGPT, you can take a screenshot. I did this last time. I took a screenshot and loaded into ChatGPT and said, hey, how would you respond to this person if I want to do X, Y, and Z, or if I want them to do X, Y, and Z? How would you respond? And ChatGPT can actually read an image. It can see it can read what's in the image or the screenshot, and it can give you feedback on how to respond to a prospect. So I think this is a big missing for a lot of people because they say, "Oh, I'm talking to a prospect. I got them in Messenger. They're interested in what I have. I don't want to screw up. What do I do?" So if you're what do I do at the what do I do stage of your business where you don't know what to do, because maybe you haven't gotten the training, or maybe you went through the training but didn't understand it, or maybe you went through the training but you're not very secure. Well, you can always ask ChatGPT, and again, ChatGPT has the world's knowledge on all things that are public related to sales and how to respond to prospects in different ways. So it at least will give you a good idea. I've seen it do extremely well. So that's a use case that I recommend, and especially if you give it a knowledge base. And what I would also do as a pro tip for a knowledge base is any training that you go through that you're trying to model. So if you get any PDFs, if you're able to get transcripts of any training that you've gone through, even if it's not your content, if you load it into a knowledge base, now ChatGPT can reference that, those examples as well. Whatever training you put there, whatever examples, like you can have sample, conversation flow. It can, handling objections. If you ever been through a training where here's how you handle these different objections. Well, now you can basically take that information and load it into the project. And now the GPT will be able to reference that information. Isn't that pretty cool? Drop me number 2 in the chat if you think that's cool. That a project doesn't have to be about what you know. It can be a grouping of expertise from different sources. One of the things that we created here at Attraction Marketing to help us in terms of running our company and help us think the way some of the most successful entrepreneurs think is we created a project that essentially, well, we loaded the knowledge base we loaded was basically the business philosophy, the business, I guess, knowledge, the best we can figure out of some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. And we created basically documents of how they would handle different situations, their guiding principles, etc. And it was like different sources, variety. And then we put that as a knowledge base, and we basically said, now we have that as a way to if we're dealing with certain challenges in our business, thinking like some of the most successful CEOs and company owners in the world, it can basically give us feedback. It can help us see our problems, our opportunities in a different light, the way, one of the world's most elite business thinkers would approach the problem. So that's an example as to how we're using it just for our own, personal growth, which is pretty cool. Let me see. I'm looking in the chat here. Using free or do projects on ChatGPT. Maria, I don't know. I've always had a paid version of ChatGPT from the very beginning because I wanted to maximize on the benefits. I recommend that you accept that if there's a fee for ChatGPT, that you accept that as part of the cost of doing business, because you are in a business. And so that's kind of like how I would think about it. And also, obviously, the paid version is probably going to give you higher quality responses. Now, if you're looking for content creation, a bot that would do that better. Right now, Claude, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes produces better results. But we subscribe to both Claude and ChatGPT, and for some cases, we see better responses from ChatGPT. In some cases, Claude is better. Now, the thing here is, I'm going to kind of inject a little bit of a downer. In order for you to be able to be effective with using ChatGPT, ultimately, you do need to know the skills that you're asking ChatGPT or AI to assist you in. So if you don't know how to conduct a conversation with a prospect, and if you've never been trained on that, then if you were to kind of create that bot and ChatGPT gives you a response, how do you know whether it's giving you something that's going to work for you or not? How do you know that's going to give you something that is any good? Sometimes still where AI hallucinates. So it might give you responses that don't have the right context. And so the best way to be able to spot that or create it'll create content that maybe isn't quite what you need, but if you don't have the skills around content creation, around copywriting, then you're not going to be able to identify when AI gives you an answer that's not going to serve you. So you still need to have the skills, but it's a great shortcut when you're getting started to be able to create knowledge bases inside of projects to support you from people that know what they're doing. And of course, if you've been through their training and you're like, man, this is really good. I need to, one of the best way now that you've gone through and you're familiar with the process, then, using AI and then having AI help you in that way, it's going to be really, really useful. And that'll, more or less prepare you, to understand whether AI is giving you an effective response or not. Oftentimes I need to prompt AI 3 or 4 times before it gives me something that's really dialed in. I need to give it feedback just like I would a person I'm training. Um, and so that's just always something you want to keep in mind. But it's a great efficiency tool because you don't have to start with any content or responses from scratch. The other thing that ChatGPT we're currently using with our students is how to use AI to respond to to respond to people's comments on social media and actually have full blown sales conversations inside of Messenger with a prospect where that AI sales bot, you can't tell it's not a human being. It can set appointments on your calendar. It can qualify prospects. It can ask probing questions that help to bring out some of the problems and the fears and the pain points that a prospect has, and it can even lead them towards a retail sale, recommend a product to them based on what they shared in that messenger chat. So we're using that right now in our business, and many of our students are using that right now. And what does that do? Well, it saves you time on having to respond to every single comment on social media. It saves you time on having to respond to every single prospect that you are engaging in conversation with. It has the world's knowledge on how to conduct sales conversations in a chat, so that it answers very effective questions, but not only it asks very effective questions. All its response, it'll answer questions as well of the prospect. Of the prospect have a question, it'll use, guess what, a knowledge base to be able to reference and then answer questions. And then it will also always, like a good salesperson, always end every statement with another question. So it maintains control of the conversation by asking another probing question that's gonna be effective for motivating that prospect to take the next step. That's how we're using, and then the final, personal efficiency, personal productivity use case is something we've been doing for a long time, and now we have AI to assist us, and that has to do with advertising. Advertising is a little bit of a more advanced skill that we teach our students, especially when they want to get off of social media, when they want to minimize their time on social media. Well, advertising is the answer to doing that. And now, well, the cool thing about the ad platforms that we help our students kind of get started with for as little as $1 a day is that those ad platforms already have AI built in. So you don't have to do anything when it comes to prompting an AI or communicating with AI. It's already using AI to find the prospects that would be a best fit for what you're promoting. So that's what we're using it for personal productivity. Let me know if you guys are digging this. I'm gonna get into how you would use this for team support, but drop me number 10 in the chat if you guys are enjoying this content so far. Let me see some of the things I prompted for qualifying questions. That's a great thing to do it for. Are you saving under yeah, I'm just saving under projects, yes. Let me see. And I'm not gonna be able to get into answering all your questions, guys. I'm just looking for what is it you guys use ChatGPT for? Fantastic. Or AI. Okay, very cool, guys. All right. So let's get into how to use it for team support. Well, if you guys remember when I talked about projects, well, this is something you can exclusively do within not, or maybe not exclusively do, but I know you can do it with ChatGPT, is you can create your own GPT, your own specialized GPT And you can actually ask ChatGPT how to do it, so you don't have to get it from me. And all the questions you guys have, you can literally ask AI about itself, and it'll be able to answer. Because I don't, I won't know any of these platforms better than the AI itself that is the platform. And so, but remember when I talked about knowledge bases and creating that in projects? Well, you can create your own GPT that has a specialization, and you can actually take the knowledge base part, and basically a GPT is basically just a project that gives you the ability to share it with others. So a GPT, you have to define for it what it is you want it to do. So if you want your GPT to be a specialist on how to have sales conversations, then you need to give it a knowledge base and enough information about your business, but you also need to give it instructions on what exactly you want it to do and what the goal is, etc., so that it can support you. If you want to create GPT that helps you write content creation, and then you need to give it writing samples of content that's really good. So you need to have that frame of reference. And so if you are a leader that already has training on how to handle objections, for example, or how to have conversations with the prospects, or how to create content on social media, different types of content on social media, whatever the case, if you have training, you can create a GPT that has a knowledge base that is specializing in, for example, how to create content for reels, how to create scripts for reels, how to create written posts, etc. Like, you can actually create a GPT where inside of the knowledge base, you upload training that you're giving your team, but also you upload examples of really good content that you've created in the past, or other people have created in the past, that you want it to model, that it can use as okay, this is what a good social media post is. Got it. I'll keep that in mind. And you can give it as many examples as you want, and it eventually it'll basically learn the writing style or the content creation style in those samples. And now you can share that GPT with your team. You can send them a link, it'll load it into their ChatGPT account, and now they can basically ask this AI, hey, how do I want to, how do write me a reel, or write me a post, or write me a blog article, or write me a video script, uh, that, for this. You don't even need to tell it an audience if that's in the knowledge base, but hey, I need a video script for offering this product, and it might actually have that information about the product, and you can give it some information, and then it'll basically start talking to you. The GPT will start talking to you and basically ask you questions that you then answer. And then once it asks enough questions to its satisfaction, then it'll actually write whatever you're asking to write, and it'll use the training as reference for any frameworks that might have been taught. It'll use the writing samples, or if we're talking about, hey, how to talk to a prospect, it might give examples of a really effective, like, messenger chat conversation, the content of that, and give it a bunch of examples of that, so that it knows how the conversation should flow. It can give, basically you can give it whatever, which is really cool. So that is what I see right now, is basically you can turn your projects and duplicate that into a GPT, then you can share it with your team. So right now we are working on a Ferny GPT that basically would have in its knowledge base all the content that is in our curriculum, the content of all our coaching calls that we recently done, or all coaching calls I've recently done, et cetera, et cetera. And basically we're in the process of creating this and testing it out for some of our students, so that now AI can help answer some of the not even sometimes basic questions. Sometimes the questions are complex, as if I was answering them, because it has that training. So we're going to be creating a GPT for help our students write better content. We're creating a GPT that help our students, write ads the way I would write ads. We're creating a GPT that would help people create a video script. And so right now what we're seeing is that creating these GPTs, which essentially are project, it's similar to projects, but you do it according to whatever process for creating a GPT. It's a different part of ChatGPT. And again, you can ask ChatGPT on how to do that. You can basically have create specialist GPTs that help you do just about anything. But the thing is, it needs to have the reference. It needs to have the knowledge base, like really has needs to have really good training that has been done, and all the content for that training uploaded, and then also the content of any coaching calls that go over what you want the GPT to specialize in, so that it has the right context, it can model the similar style, etc. And then once you dial that in, then you can share that with your team. So right now, one of our top earner students, she has she's a 7-figure earner, and she just recently rolled out a GPT for her team that basically is broad, that basically is there to help answer and support the team members with the most basic questions and even some more advanced questions. And so right now it's not perfect, but remember what I said earlier in the call. In about 3 years, it actually, I think, will probably be more than perfect. And more than perfect means it'll be better than even your upline answering the question, because again, GPT doesn't have a bad day. It's always consistent in what it's referencing. It doesn't get frustrated, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where it's headed. So that's the reason you want to learn some of this stuff right now. And I truly believe that we're going to be the last generation, like the people living here today. If you learn skills on how to do attraction marketing, how to talk to prospects, how to convert prospects, how to create social media content for different platforms, if you learn how to develop automation to generate prospects or attract prospects to you, if you learn all those things right now, you're going to be the last generation that actually has the ability to evaluate whether what AI is producing for us is any good. Because the future generation is going to be so dependent on AI, they're not going to know the difference. And that's going to be your competitive advantage. Here at Attraction Marketing, when we coach our students, we want to make sure that not only are we providing them with AI tools that we recommend they use and how to, instructions and training on how to do that, but we're also providing them the skills that would give them the ability to do the work and be successful online with network marketing, as if ChatGPT didn't exist. Because when a student has that ability, they actually become better at using AI, because then they can spot the BS. Then they can see where what AI is doing, it's not working, versus taking at face value whatever AI gives you. And that's going to be extremely valuable. So this is the time where you want to learn the skills. If you're thinking that AI is going to help me not have to learn all these things, then you're going about it the wrong way, and you're not going to be successful. And AI essentially will replace anything you can do. You want to be able to learn the skills that then we'll be basically asking AI to do, so that you can be the engineer or the prompt engineer or the manager that is evaluating. And that's going to make you extremely valuable in the business world and network marketing, etc. So that's where I think we're at right now. Is we're basically going to be the last generation that actually has skills that don't need AI to do our job. But when we combine our innate skills with AI, then it helps us become more efficient. We can spot the BS. We can give feedback to AI to tell it, hey, that's not quite what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm looking for instead. When you have that ability, you can create some magic. And especially when it comes to creating these team support systems with GPTs,